And so let's go ahead and, we can echo out a list. I guess we can make an unordered list. And I'm just going to echo this actually as PHP. I'm not going to go crazy just because I don't have very much to type. I'm not going to blend it in as embedded HTML. And I'm going to put a class in here called gallery. Okay. Oops. And yeah, that's correct. And we're going to terminate that. So, and what's missing, I knew something was missing, is my ending bracket there. Okay, so we're going to start with the UL, and then we might as well go ahead and end it. So we'll do an ending UL. Okay. All right, and inside of here is where we're going to start building the list for our thumbnails. All right, and the best way to do that is going to be with a for each loop. And let's go ahead and end it. And again, we can do the same thing that we did up here, which is for each image list as file name, because remember in a loop it uses that temporary file name and then it throws it away before it's finished with the loop, and then you can reuse it again later, meaning that this is no good outside of the loop, so I can reuse it. And what I want to do every single time we loop through is I want to actually create something. Well, first of all, let's just go ahead and get the pictures listed. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do is let's go ahead and end our PHP here. We'll start it back up here like that. Okay, because in here we're going to have a whole bunch of HTML, and so here it's actually going to be beneficial actually to go ahead and have it as HTML. And I guess I can just get rid of this line and have it go right there. Okay, so we're going to make a list item. And let's go ahead and end our list item. And I like to put all of my basic syntax in there before I start doing the PHP stuff. So first off, let's go ahead and just put the image. Let's forget about the link for right now. Let's just do img src. And we're not going to put the source file in yet, and we're going to have alt equals. Okay, so that would be our image that we're going to have, right? And then around that, what we would do is put an anchor link. But before we do that, let's just go ahead first and let's make sure that we've got the pathway to our image source correct. So let's look at our file system again. Here, let's instead of looking at this page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at galleries. Okay, and you can see here what the pathway would be. So remember, the pathway to thumbs is going to be this, but if you remember correctly, we built a pathway called thumbdeerpath, okay, so that we didn't have to type all this stuff out. So a lot of that work for us is already done. So what I'm going to do here is I'll put a PHP tag, and I'm going to echo thumbdeerpath, but then I have to actually echo the file name, so I'm going to concatenate it, and we're going to use this temporary file name. Okay, so let's just copy that, paste it there. Okay, and that's going to actually pull the file name up. And now for the alt text, let's deal with the alt text in just a minute. For right now, let's just put alt here. Okay, and let's just save that. And let's just see what happens whenever we look at our page now. Let's go back. Okay, and you see we're getting our list of thumbnails. We've got the bunny, the chameleon, and the dogs. Okay, so it's bringing up the picture. Now let's make that a clickable link. All right, so to do that, what we're going to do is put an href equals. I'll just leave that blank for a moment, and then we're going to end our A after the image. Okay, and now for the href part, well, and the other thing too that I like to do is I like to put a title on my href so that, especially for disabled or accessible devices, that way they know where they're going to go whenever they click on the picture. and we can use whatever we're going to make for the alt text. We'll put it here. So we'll just put title here for now, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But for the HTML part, or excuse me, for the hyperreference, what we're going to do is we're not going to go to the thumbnail directory path. This time what we're going to do is go to we're going to go to the large pathway. So let's start our PHP tags. We'll do an echo large, large, like that. So we're echoing the large directory path and the file name. Let's save that, refresh the page, and now these are links. And you see it takes me to the larger picture. Okay, pretty nifty. Okay, so now how can we get the alt text to show up? Okay, well that's the next step. Well, in order for that to work with the alt text, what we have to do is we have to build it into the loop, and I'm going to actually include that before we start building this list. I mean, this is built into the loop too, so don't mistake in what I just said as this not being in the loop, but this is the embedded HTML part. I'm actually not going to be building with HTML, so I'm actually going to put it before I end this PHP tag. And then what I'll do is I'll tab in as part of this loop, and I'm going to create a variable called alt, and we're going to have it equal something. And what I want to do is I want to be sure that I strip the file extension off before I do anything. And I'm not stripping it off for the file name. I'm creating a new variable called alt where I'm going to store the file name without the file extension. So to do that, you know, I've shown you, I think before, that we could use something called base name, but base name, the function base name, does not accept arrays into its parameters, and it only accepts scalar single variables. So we're going to have to use something different than base name. We're going to have to use string replace. So I'm going to use, because string replace will in fact accept arrays as its search pattern. Okay, so first thing is, if you remember in arrays, we're going to have 3 parameters, so I'll go ahead and put all 3. And the first is going to be the thing that you're looking for, so it's going to be the search pattern. Well, our search pattern is going to be anything that's inside a file extension. So as I said, you can actually put an entire array in here, and what it'll do is it'll look for everything that's in that array. It'll look for all of these patterns inside of, and as my last parameter, I have to put the thing I'm looking in, which is file name. Okay, so that's our file name that we're looking inside of for the existence of any of these patterns. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace them all with, if they're found, with empty, an empty variable or an empty value. Okay, so I'm going to put a single quote and then a single quote with nothing inside, not a space, nothing. And it's basically going to effectively strip the extensions off, so to replace the extension with nothing. Okay, so that's the first thing that we'll do, and let's just start with that. Okay, so let's go ahead where it says title and also where it says alt. We're going to use that alt variable for both of them, so we'll do some PHP tags, and we're going to say echo alt. And it's going to echo that particular file's iteration instance of the alt. Each time it loops through, it's going to basically find this. Well, it's actually going to find this. It's going to strip this part. And here, it's just going to leave us with this. Okay? And that's what it's going to be each time. But it's going to be for bunny, and then for chameleon, and then for dog. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole PHP block that I just made, and I'm going to put it in place of where it says alt here. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to hit refresh. Now, it doesn't look like anything changed here, but if we were to go and inspect this element, I'm in Google Chrome, by the way, then you can see that we've got our alt saying bunny, and we have a title saying bunny. Okay? So that's actually really helpful. The other thing that you could have, instead of having the title be bunny, if you know, like since this is a thumbnail gallery, instead of that, you could say something like open and then in larger window or something like that. Okay, so that in the title they know what's going to happen is that it's going to open and then it's going to echo the name bunny in a larger window. So I'm going to save that and let's refresh the page again, and I'm going to inspect it again. And you see here now it says title is open bunny in larger window. And so that's something that if I close this and I hover, you see it says open bunny in larger window, open chameleon in larger window, and so forth. Okay, so that's good so far. All right, now the only problem though is that what if you had something, and I don't unfortunately to show you, but what if you had something where the file name was an underscore? It had an underscore in it. Okay, well, just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and, you know what, let's go ahead and let's change a couple of these. But we have to change them both in the thumbnail and in the other one. Let's see, where it says dog, we'll change it and we'll say dog underscore nose. And we'll change it in both of these so that we can get an idea. Alright. Now, here, let's refresh this again. And if I hover this, this is the dog nose. I hover this and you see it says dog underscore nose. Well, that's no good. We don't want that. We want to get rid of that. So right after we created that string replacement for alt, let's redefine alt yet again. So this time we're going to do it where alt equals basically itself, okay, but it's going to replace the underscore in it. So let's go ahead and do another string replace. And this time it's going to be, we're going to replace what we find inside of alt. Okay, so the first thing we're looking for is an underscore, and we're going to replace it with a space. Okay, so unlike this one where we're replacing it with nothing and stripping the file extension, here we're actually replacing the underscore with the full space, and that's a space character right there. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. Let's do a refresh on the page, and now if I hover over this, dog space nose shows up instead of dog underscore nose. And if you wanted to take it one step further, we could capitalize this and we could wrap UC words around this entire thing here. Oh, and I forgot to terminate it, so we're going to terminate that. Save it. Refresh. And now dog nose is uppercase, dog uppercase, chameleon uppercase. Okay? And so that's a really nice way to build your image gallery just by looking at directories. Okay, so that's all good and well, but the thing is now, you see we've only hard-coded animals in. Well, if we create the function out of this, we can make it so that the function is customizable and we can pass parameters in to tell it what directory, like which gallery we want to actually affect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this demonstration here, and in the next one I'm going to show you how to actually turn this whole thing into a usable function.